very welcome back. Now, a study by the ESRI says inflation could hit 6.7% this year, a level not seen in Ireland for decades.
So what does this mean and why is it happening? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Well, the man with all the answers, financial expert Paul Merriman joins us now. How are you, Paul?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
More joy fest we're spreading this morning. Listen, can we start with just, we're hearing the inflation word for the last couple of months.
Yeah.
Let's start at the beginning. What is inflation?
So basically, inflation is the cost of everything going up in practical terms. But how it's caused, there's a number of factors how inflation can actually happen. So number one is kind of supply and demand. Okay, so if you look at what's going on, obviously the war in Ukraine and the oil prices and the flow of fuel, that's they're cutting down supply. So demand is high and price is going to go up. But also, the amount of money that comes into the economy can have a massive effect as well. So we already had an inflation problem after COVID-19 because a lot of households were saving money, weren't spending money, and they were going back into the economy then to spend the money, and that actually creates higher prices as well. But also, we had Brexit as well on the back of that as well, which was interrupting. So we were already kind of thinking on the edge of, something really going to bad happen here if inflation was. And then the war in Ukraine happens, and then it's just really ramped up since then. Looks like it's going to be 8.5%, maybe. There's in between 8 and 8.5% before the summer months, which is the highest since the 80s. Like it's madness. So it's a massive concern. Yeah,
that's what's driven inflation. Essentially, goods, services,
lack of supply. I mean, even look at the housing price. So we've had a massive inflation on house prices alone in this country because of the pure lack of supply. There's massive demand out there. That was obviously again coupled by the construction workers not being able to work during lockdown and not putting enough supply in the marketplace. But there's loads of ways that people be affected by this. You're going to have, basically, if you've got €100 in the bank, say, for example, even in savings, that's devaluing in front of your eyes now nearly by, say, 8%. So you're buying less. Your money's getting you less than what it was. But also, inflation with wages isn't going up. So you're going to see people... What's going to unfortunately happen here is that people that are maybe on the likes of social welfare payments or maybe on the lower income brackets, they are really going to be affected. And we're trying to promote today when talking about inflation is you really need to look after your own house. We say this loads of times on the show. And we talk about inflation.
What does that mean? Yeah,
look after your house in relation to the income that's coming in. Everybody needs a budget, okay? So a personal budget to know what income's coming in and what income's going out. Your face is already making it.
I'm gathering Lisa doesn't do a budget.
I'd say a lot of people don't.
No, they don't. But I think a lot of people get scared by the word budget. It sounds like you have to go on a money diet or you have to really, really scrimp what you're spending. It's not about that. It's about understanding where your money's going. So, on our Instagram, AskPaul.ie, on our website, we have a free personal budget tool. Go get it completed. It just puts in what your money's coming in and where it's going.
It's like an Excel spreadsheet.
That's exactly what it is.
For people at home, it's putting in your gas, electricity, car.
And then if you have a surplus, if you're lucky enough to have a surplus, it's about being an adult and deciding what to do with that surplus. Now, if you have a surplus, you're going to have to really mind that surplus with inflation, especially if inflation keeps going bad. Because if you're wasting that money somewhere where you probably shouldn't be, and then inflation does kick in and your bills get more expensive, you can all of a sudden go from being in the green down into the red. And I think that's going to happen to so many households. But then there's another problem for people that maybe have got cash and they're sitting on the bank deposits and they have saved over COVID-19. There's a lot of people out there still earning reasonably good and high incomes as well. And their money is kind of disappearing in front of their eyes now with inflation being so high. So the option there is you have to consider investing and getting your money out of the banks because you're leaving them there at 0% or sometimes negative interest rates for businesses as well. So you have business accounts, and obviously if you have a normal personal account, you can invest that money and try and make sure that money's beating inflation.
But is money going to earn money at this in the world?
Yeah, the stock market has had a bad kind of first quarter, and it's up again last week and the week previous. So considering there's been a war, it started from kind of what might turn into a world war. It's done reasonably well. But if you go back to COVID-19, when we had the whole economies and the whole world was practically shut down, the stock market was still up in double digits, and I think this year will probably be another strong year, even though the first quarter started off wrong.
I think, Paul, as well, like obviously myself included and people at home are thinking, when you just mentioned there, invest your money or invest, but people think, in what? I mean, people know about gold, Bitcoin, but what does it mean anything to
Look, we do say this all the time on the show as well, but so I developed what's called the Ask Paul Investment Club. All the information again is on the website and on my Linktree, on my Instagram page, but it's where I invest on a monthly basis and I pick a fund in the Irish marketplace. But you just set a direct debit up, you can invest from as little as €100 per month. Lots of people do, like the children's allowance for 10, 15 or 18 years when the kids get to college. And a lot of people invest their surplus income in it as well. well. So I invest on a monthly basis. We pick the funds. The funds invest in 400 stocks throughout the world, you know, so obviously big tech stocks.
But your advice also is that when you're investing, it's long term.
You have to invest
a minimum of 5 years.
Minimum of 5 years, so when you're dead, right? It has to. You can't invest money and maybe need access to it next week or next year or the following year. So I always say to people, it's very important that you make sure you have no short-term debt. There's no point in investing in what I do if you owe the credit union or the post office or the bank or a credit card, you know, and you're paying them at 8% or 18% for interest on a credit card, and you're trying to get 6 to 8% of return on your money investing. So make sure your debts are cleared. Also make sure you have an emergency fund. I think the credit union is a great place to hold that, like a minimum of €1,000.
Running away money, is it?
Yeah, not runaway money.
Emergency money in case the boiler breaks down.
We're talking about the boiler breaking down.
Well, it's kind of a nice way of saying emergency money, but yeah.
And then once you have them set aside, I think the credit is a great place for the emergency fund. But once you have that kind of put aside, then you should look at investing long term. But if you're thinking of getting married next year, you're thinking of getting, you know, maybe buying a house in the next couple of years, you can't invest that money because you need access to it in the next couple of years.
But as you said earlier on, Paul, the people who this is going to affect most are those in social welfare payments and low income. And let's be honest about it, even people on middle incomes, not a lot of people have surplus money or money to invest.
Nope.
So
they have to.
Are they stuck?
They are stuck. I don't know what way to say that the nicest way possible, but they are literally stuck now. And I think a lot of families are going to end up going into the red on the back of inflationary measures, where they might have had a little bit of a comfort blanket, even if it was €100, €200 a month or whatever it was.
So how does it change, Paul, in terms of inflation? What starts? Where's the top of the hill?
Well, the whole idea here, the big problem here in the segment there you're on as well, is that inflation's so high, the only way governments will usually, the playbook here is to start increasing interest rates, which increases mortgage costs for people. So all those tracker mortgages out there, they're going up. And not many people, I think, on tracker mortgage still think tracker mortgage is the best thing in the world. It is today, and it has been for the last maybe 10 years. But tracker mortgage interest rates are going to go up.
But they'll still be better than if you had a fixed mortgage rate.
Well, maybe not, because currently you can get a fixed rate mortgage now, say for argument's sake, for between 2 and 2.5%. But let's say you have a tracker of 1 or 1.5%, and the ECB goes up a number of times over the next few years, which in my opinion it will. I think fixed rate mortgages this year are going to be the new tracker rates in the future, where people are going to be delighted.
And we've been hearing for years, if you have a tracker mortgage, hold on to it.
Yeah, hold on to it. Now, first, that is still the advice, but if interest rates start to go up, the interest rates that are around now on fixed rate mortgage at 2.5%, or even get a 25-year mortgage fixed for 2.8%. I think that is needs to be considered, because I think in 5 years, 6 years, but don't forget interest rates are cyclical. They go up and they go down. Look, everything, stock markets, everything.
Of course,
and they've been low down here for practically the last 10 years, and they're going to start increasing. And when they go up, they go up. They never really go up like 0.25 and they leave it for a year to see what happens. Once they put them up, they decide to increase them. Not saying dramatically, but maybe 1.5%, or even 2%.
That's a big difference.
And they do it in 0.25 to allow people cope, rather than saying, right, we're going up by 1% today. They put them up by 0.25 every quarter or so. So it's very rare they put them up and leave them sit low. So I think lowest interest rate environment at the moment. I think invest your money long term over 5 years, and everybody, I don't care who, what income's coming into the household,
what you're going to say. Budget.
Needs the personal budget template on the website, so go there and get it.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. That was actually
good
really good.
Happy Mother's Day.
But really good advice, though, you know, no matter what age you are.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks,
brilliant. Thanks, Paul. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us now. We are live until midday.